So yesterday you heard a little bit from Eliam, and he shared a bit of his experience at Carolina. This morning, we'll hear some different scholars talk about their progression through the Morehead-Cain experience, focusing on each of their summers or some of the things that make Morehead-Cain unique. And I hope that you will enjoy listening to them speak here, but then that you will capture the vast human library of scholars and their experiences that exists in this room over the course of the rest of the breakfast. But to begin, I'd like to introduce Sachi Akmal. Sachi is in the class of 2028. She's originally from Waukesha, North Carolina, and she's a graduate of Marvin Ridge High School. Sachi took a gap year after coming here and seeing the opportunities that might provide, and she will share a little bit about her gap year experience with all of you this morning. Sachi, it's great to see you.
Thank you for the introduction, Chris. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about my gap year. But I want to start this presentation by saying that if the prospect of this is at all new or unfamiliar to you, then you are exactly where I was about 2 years ago, and this presentation is for you. When I first heard a scholar talk about his gap year, I remember sort of tuning it out because his experience was really cool, but it didn't seem like something I could do, and it didn't fit this post-high school paradigm that I had that was developed by my parents, my teachers, and my friends. But ultimately, I did decide to take a gap year. I was one of two out of a graduating class of 500 to do so. And when I did, I honestly didn't have much of a plan. But that didn't really scare me because I had 3 reasons that were far too convincing for me not to take a gap year. And I want you to see if any of them resonate with you. Number 1, for as long as I can remember, my life had always been about school. Number 2, I felt an itch for a big change, and part of this had to do with me being an in-state scholar, and I always thought that I would go to school out of state. Number 3, I knew that the resources I would have as a scholar would make it pretty hard for the gap year to be a flop between the resources of other gappers, the advisors, and the gap year fund. So with academics on pause for the first time in my entire life, I had to figure out what to do with my time. So here's a little snapshot. I got to backpack Europe for 2 months. I summited Mount Kilimanjaro with a group of UNC gappers. I saw the cherry blossoms in Japan, and I also did a 10-day silent meditation course in the US, one that my mom talked to me about when I was younger that she did in her 20s in India, and I never dreamt I would do at my age. And that's one thing I want to emphasize here is age. You may be able to do these things later in life, but you won't have done them at this age. Hiking Mount Kilimanjaro is a feat no matter when you do it in your life, but since I did it at 19, the confidence I got from that experience will serve me into my 20s. So I want to talk about 2 experiences that were particularly meaningful to me, not coincidentally because they were places I spent a long time in. So after Tanzania, I went to Morocco. And in Morocco, I stayed with a host family for about 6 weeks in Rabat. Rabat is a relatively small city, so by the end of my time there, I'd known my way around and how to get around. There you can see the oldest neighborhood in Rabat, the Casbah des Oudeyas, where my host mom actually grew up. Next to that, you can see the oldest bookseller in Rabat who has read over 5,000 books and is over 70 years old. And then the third picture is just a block over from where I lived in the Quartier Hassan. 6 weeks gave me the perfect amount of time to immerse myself into the culture. I was doing a journalism internship at the time where I had opportunities to attend local events. But living as a journalist made my time there so much more engaging and immersive because I paid more attention to the world around me. I got over my sense of shyness and actually tried to use my French and limited Arabic to talk to locals and learn more about the world around me. I was also a frequenter of the Cinema Renaissance, which is a main cultural hub in Rabat, and I would go there all the time for film screenings, open mic nights, and concerts, and get to know some people my age who lived in the city across the world. I also knew it was important for me to start taking Arabic classes. They were not the languages anybody preferred speaking there, and even the little I learned made such a difference for me. And the last week I was there was also the first week of Ramadan, which is something I planned intentionally. And my dad is Muslim, so I'd never experienced Ramadan in a majority Muslim country, and it was a transformative experience. But after Morocco, I headed to Japan to work on a tea farm for a month. And this was one of those experiences that I had totally copied and pasted from a scholar the year before me. This was also probably when I had the most ideal schedule of my life. I worked 4 to 6 hours a day, about 6 days a week, and the work, although it was sometimes monotonous, in that scenery, it was incredibly meditative. During this time, I also listened to about 3 audiobooks and tons of new albums. And the family that ran the farm treated me as their family and the rest of their volunteers as family. I got to learn about every step of the tea process, which for me had just been a small interest, but now became a much more larger passion. I was involved with harvesting, processing, packaging of tea. And I also learned how to hand roll tea leaves and lead a proper tea testing. And since this was a work stay, I got to stay at a volunteer house and get home-cooked meals for free. Sorry. There we go. Food was a big deal here. This was a real treat for me, not just because our housekeeper was a fantastic cook, but because she cooked all vegetarian meals, which if you know anything about Japanese cuisine, is pretty hard to come by. And as a vegetarian, that meant a lot to me. But yeah, that brings me to one of my favorite anecdotes of the year. So we're back in Morocco. The bedroom that I stayed in, just 3 days before, a girl had left, and I'd taken her place. And that girl had also been named Sachi, which was my host family found that hilarious because the 2 Sachis looked so different and were from such different places in the world. Because this Sachi was from Japan. And eventually I figured out that the other Sachi would be in Tokyo around the same time that I would be there. So on the day before I left Japan, we met up at her favorite cafe at Shinjuku Station, and I gave her updates about our shared family in Rabat. I told her that our host mom's granddaughter had taken her first steps. We got to learn more about each other, and in that moment, it was kind of a culmination of my gap year, and the world felt like it could fit in my hand. So now we're back at Chapel Hill. I knew coming back was going to be an adjustment, but like I said, for a point in time, it had been all I'd known, so those muscle memory, that kicks in pretty easily. But I feel like I've gained a lot more context for my education and how it fits in the grand scope of things. Another way to put that would be, if I came directly from high school, I think I'd be more concerned about my grades and joining clubs because they're prestigious, rather than exploring my interests, no matter how random they are. And while I miss being on my gap year all the time, UNC has a really, really great and close-knit community of gappers that I can talk to whenever I want to reminisce. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lauren Cooper from the class of 2028. Lauren is originally from Greensboro, North Carolina. She attended the North Carolina School of Science and Math in Durham and will now share her experiences from her outdoor leadership summer with Knowles.
Thank you, Sachi. Good morning. I'm Lauren, and this morning I'm going to share a bit about my outdoor leadership summer experience backpacking in the Wind River Range of Wyoming. Since I am a first-year scholar, all of this occurred just last summer. This also means I was in your very seats partaking in the Human Library just last year. Before I begin, I want to remind you all that you are meant to be in the seats and spaces you will find yourself in throughout your final selection experience. Your unwavering hard work and passion do not go unnoticed, and I'm inspired by all of you here today. Now let's talk about Wyoming. If you've heard about the 4 Morehead Summer Enrichment Programs, you may be eyeing the opportunity to spend time abroad or work an internship. However, you may also be wondering, what really is the outdoor leadership summer? I can tell you that I had that same question, and I can also tell you I did not expect to spend my last summer before college in the state of Wyoming. Despite having spent time trying to grapple with my reality of my backcountry summer in the REI checkout line, even while I was preparing my backpack for the next 24 days, which came in at a staggering 89 pounds the first time we packed it, I had no idea what was ahead of me. Put simply, this trip was the hardest thing I've ever done. That does not mean it was not simultaneously the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. With 11 scholars and 3 course instructors, every early morning, or as we called it, an Alpine start, was a new challenge, but also a new lesson towards personal growth. One 5 a.m. morning in particular, we set out to beat the harsh afternoon Rocky Mountain sun to hike 10 miles to our next campsite. This included crossing the Continental Divide, the mountain range that separates the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Still, with our lives on our backs, we crossed the Continental Divide as a group with plenty of water breaks and even more Hamilton sing-along sessions to keep our minds busy. I was reminded of the powerful influence that the people around you have. Here I was, doing something I'd never in a million years imagined myself doing. But what got me through it was the encouragement and support of my team members, and also enticing life stories that expanded my worldview and challenged my understanding. Each hike wasn't just rocks and mountaintops, but a chance to embrace the uncomfortable, including blistered feet, in the pursuit of team success and the realization of personal growth, and to also get some pretty sweet pictures. Backpacking takes strength, backpacking for 24 days takes grit, and backpacking for the first time ever takes a sense of wonder. During our routine debrief after every day's hike, I always brought up something along the lines of, I can't believe we just did that. I couldn't believe we crossed that deep river. I couldn't believe we did parkour on boulders, and I couldn't believe how much of the world there was to see and explore. While our days were spent hiking, Wilt's dropping personal lore, and singing enough songs to make for one heck of a Spotify playlist when we got back, upon deciding our tent spot and kitchen, a whole new world of things was revealed. I had never gone fishing before, ever. But one sunny afternoon, my course instructor, John, encouraged me to go out on the lake with him and catch some dinner. I said, why not? Eager to get out on the water and pick John's brain about his own outdoor leadership summer experience. Surprise! I ended up catching the largest fish of the trip, 2 Yellowstone cutthroat trout. With some help from one of my teammates, an experienced outdoorsman from Montana, I learned how to gut, season, and prepare my catch. Needless to say, my cook group ate good that night. If it wasn't fish on the menu, it was quesadillas, pizza, quinoa, or even a brownie mix mush of sorts, using whatever was left of our rations. We all got pretty creative cooking over that Whisper Light stove, eventually learning that Frank's Red Hot sauce can make anything taste better, including trail spice. And for dessert, straight lemonade powder, an M&L delicacy. Okay. The sun rises in the east and also sets in the west. This is important to know when you're hiking to camp without an instructor and you lose the group compass. That memory, just a few days old at the time, replayed in my head as I led 4 of my peers on a 7-mile hike independently through pouring mountain rain. Waiting the downpour out simply wasn't an option. So there I was, a girl who had only used Google Maps, trudging through trails that had turned into calf-deep moats and reading a paper map that slowly disintegrated with each raindrop. How in the world am I supposed to do this? I thought, with my fingers getting colder and the map getting blurrier by the second. I had to be upfront with my team about my struggle. We had to work together about what we wanted to do to get to that still barely visible X marked on our map. As a unit, we collaborated and through bearings, reoriented ourselves, and eventually used our compass to make it to campsite just in time for some much-needed naps in the sun. This vulnerability would become a common theme across both the rest of the expeditions and life back in North Carolina. It's okay to admit when I'm wrong. I don't know what I don't know. What I do know, however, is that there is more to life than fear. You have to feel the fear and do the thing anyway, because you'll never know just how capable you are if you never give it a try. You don't know just how strong you really are. Trust your feet. That's what John told me as I took baby steps down an almost 60-degree slope of rocks, gripping onto my trekking poles with all my might. Every day was a new challenge and a lesson to be learned, whether it was wilderness first aid or how to use a lighter. With this, I went to sleep every night under shooting stars and constellations, with a body and mind stronger than I could have ever imagined. I can do hard things. My outdoor leadership was the most enriching and necessary experience of my life, giving me friends from across the world that light up my life and showing me that I can do anything I put my mind and soul into, both of which are pretty important in college. I disconnected from my everyday life to reconnect with myself. You are capable of more than you know. It's all inside of you. You just have to let it out. And hey, surely, if I can cross the continental divide, I can do organic chemistry. Thank you. And next, I'd like to introduce Ty Besses from the class of 2027, originally from Asheville, North Carolina, and a graduate of Christ School. Ty will now share his experience from his civic collaboration summer.
Good morning. Hope you're all enjoying this beautiful Saturday in Chapel Hill. First, I want to congratulate all of you for being here today. It is not a small feat. You all possess a great deal of talent, and that is exemplified by your hard work throughout your life. That being said, take your time to enjoy this weekend. Connect with your peers. Enjoy everything that Chapel Hill has to offer. You'll hear this countless times over these next coming years, but your net worth is your network, specifically the high caliber people around you. Look to your left and right, reach out, because these people will propel you to heights that you never thought you could reach. So now that the formalities are done, let's get to the real reason why I'm on this stage. Just a quick question. How many of you have been to San Diego? Okay, we got some good hands. Now for the rest of you, how many would want to visit an all-American city with perfect weather, an infinite amount of beach days, and an incomparable culinary architecture, all for free? Okay, right. Okay, so this is the type of opportunity you can get during your second Morehead-Cain summer, the Civic Collaboration. Civic Collaboration, which I'm sure will be explained in greater detail along this weekend, is a summer where you're given 8 weeks to work with your peers to understand a problem and figure out the most effective solution. The great part about Civic Collaboration is that the city and the job are all set up, so you have to do no work at all. No cold emails, no back and forth with advisors. All you have to do is have someone like Gala Hermer who will book the flight, book the room, and you are good. The beauty behind this summer is that you're in a place that you've more than likely never been to before, not for an extended period of time. You're with a group of people that you have no idea about, working on a project you probably didn't know existed. For me, myself, I'm a public policy major. I've always been interested in injustices of politics in this country and policies. Specifically for this summer, the policies of housing and government-sanctioned administrations. This landed me and 3 others in San Diego working for the Housing Commission there. Our project was to explore the housing crisis within the properties of the Housing Commission and figure out the most effective ways to lower food insecurity in these residencies. Additionally, we were tasked to find a way for people to have access to healthy fruits and vegetables without having to drive 30 to 45 minutes away from home or spending abundance of their grocery bill. Our project started at the Belden residency, where we met with occupants, volunteers, and administration to understand the failures and successes of the community garden there. Here's a brief overview of Belden. It's a elder residency. Essentially, everyone there is over 60 years old. People come there to live out the rest of their lives. This meant that investing in this community would have a large impact because the residents are there for a very long time, and their turnover rate is very low. For the residents, having a community garden to invest time in was amazing. It proved to be effective in improving mental health, in creating a tight-knit community, and also to give people a healthy source of fruits and vegetables. Astoundingly, we were doing some research, and we found that a lot of these residents hadn't had a fresh fruit or vegetable for over 4 months. Their bills just could not do it. So after our first 4 weeks, we started not only to expand to other organizations, but also to other community gardens in the area. We volunteered in the city, as you can see on the left, and we learned from other people about the pitfalls of the housing industry. We went as far as LA. Mind you, my group was blasting California girls the entire time. But nonetheless, we went to a serious conference to learn more about community gardens in low-income communities. Our research was expansive so we could put together the best deliverable possible. After about 6 to 7 weeks of research, we came up with an all-inclusive manual for the San Diego Housing Commission that gave them all the tools to implement these community gardens at their residencies in the most economically effective and time-efficient manner. Just for some small statistics, we cut about $8,000 worth of extra money from this project so that they would have it to do in other places. And also we took the project time for implementing these community gardens from about 2 years to 9 months. So we catalyzed connections between other institutions and the San Diego Housing Commission. So as they were implementing these community gardens along the way, they didn't feel alone. And in the end, the work we did in 8 weeks improved the lives of hundreds of people immediately and hopefully thousands to come. Now, my peers and I did work very hard in San Diego to put this project together, but that's not the only thing we got to do. We got surfing lessons with Bill Powers for free. We also got to visit every single tourist trap physically possible in San Diego. We got to immerse ourselves in a mixing pot of culture, and I also experienced probably the most expensive dinner of my life when Chris Bradford came to visit. But we also got time to be with each other as a group, cooking dinners, having game nights and watching movies, late night walks and early morning runs, winning trivia night at the local restaurant, and going to Trader Joe's to do our shopping. We worked together as a collective, and we had the best experience possible because of that. Out of a group of people that I didn't know prior to this trip, I gained family. I learned patience in time of conflict, and I learned being resolute always prevails. I took value from every interaction I had over the summer and every single connection that we made. I also gained a vast knowledge in how government administrations work. We learned about the amount of loopholes you had to jump through to try and get simple tasks done, and the complicated business side of trying to make positive change. This experience was unlike any other. There's rarely a time in your life where you're afforded so much responsibility without any prior knowledge of what is going on, and that's something to take seriously. But you're also left with a lot of freedom, especially creative freedom. And this will give you a sneak peek into what your life will look like after and during college. I can't express how impactful this experience was on my development as a person and on my professional career. It helped me expand my horizons in the fields I didn't even know about and gain a network of people that have already helped me excel my career greatly. Civic collaboration is an amazing summer experience, and I would highly encourage anyone who participates to take it all in day by day, because you never know what a new encounter will bring you. Thank you. I will now be introducing Akshat from the class of 26. Originally from Bangalore, India, he attended Greenwood High School and will now speak on the Global Perspective Summer.
All right, we good? Okay. Thanks, Ty. That was amazing, and I think he captured my sentiment very well. But now that I'm up here and I can see everyone, my bad. He's too tall for me, that's my bad. Now that I'm up here and I can see everyone, I have the chance to address all of you together. And since there's a lot of you I know, there's a chance I don't get to meet everyone. So I just want to say congratulations. Sorry, Julie. I know we're running late on time. But anyway, I want to say congratulations. As Ty said, it's no small feat being here. All of you have earned this opportunity, and you should really take in this weekend, because all it is that you get to embrace every opportunity that you have here and meet so many new people. Now, for the reason I'm up here, let's rewind 3 years. I was sitting exactly where you all are right now, and I was listening to my scholars share their amazing summer experiences. But the truth is, I remember thinking to myself, man, these stories, they are unreal. They have to be making some of this stuff up, huh? Like, there's no way all of it happened. But there was one particular thing that stuck with me as I left that room and I went back home and did a couple of things that day. It was a global perspective summer. The idea of living and working somewhere completely new and abroad was exciting, but also a little terrifying. I won't lie, packing your bags and moving to another country, especially for those of you like myself who choose not to gap, even though it's a great opportunity, from everything familiar, it can be very daunting. But that intimidation, it fades fast. And once you realize that it's something way better, it's an opportunity for true excitement, for growth, and for a version of yourself to be discovered that you never even knew existed. For me, it all started with a vague plan. I'd been working remotely with an HR startup for the couple of months leading up to my Global Perspective Summer. I was learning a ton, but feeling a little detached. Working remote, it was different. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to see the effect of the things that I was doing, just beyond normal weekly Zoom meetings. At the same time, I had this amazing movie-type idea of experiencing European culture, traveling, and just embracing the unknown for 7 weeks while not knowing what I'm going to do next. So that's not the most detailed plan in hindsight, but I went to Julie with this. I wanted to combine the two, and over time, over a couple of months of planning, we refined this into an overall summer where I would spend in Portugal, and now it was all becoming real. So fast forward a bit, I was set to spend 7 weeks in Lisbon, directly implementing our prototype with one of the country's largest grocery retail chains in Portugal. I had my flights, Airbnbs, day trips, restaurants, sightseeing, everything, you name it. It was all planned out, thoroughly researched, and I was ready. And then came hitch number one in my plans. A month before takeoff, I get a call from our founder. He tells me, Akshat, we just hired a new CTO, Chief Technology Officer, for those of you who don't know, and she is based in Germany. She's absolutely amazing, and I want you to go there and work with her and learn from her. Instantly, I knew this was an opportunity I could not turn down. And just like that, my plans flipped absolutely upside down. Suddenly, I was canceling tickets, bookings, rerouting flights, and all of this eventually landed me in Frankfurt, where I spent 2 weeks. My bad, that's not changing. All right, we're good. Where I spent 2 weeks deep diving into no-code app development and really learning the technical side of what we were building, because before I was really just on the strategic side. And honestly, this detour changed everything in my trip. Because when I finally arrived in Lisbon after those 2 weeks, I wasn't some student helping out. I wasn't just an intern shadowing meetings and just being there taking notes. I knew our product. I knew what we were building and was confident in overseeing the implementation into their HR technology, managing feedback of over a cohort of over 45 store managers, and driving real change. And then, while you all think it's over, there came hitch number two. Our startup gained traction before we knew it. We were not just prototyping at a company anymore. We were driving real change, and we knew we have proof of concept. Our technology works. But now it was time to pitch to investors. And guess who got a front row seat to that? I was kind of proud of that. It was me. Before I knew it, I was traveling across Spain for a week and a half alongside our founder, taking buses through Seville, Madrid, Barcelona. We were meeting with VCs, venture capitalists, shaking hands with a lot of high-level executives, and just proving my values in ways I could not imagine doing at that point in my career. Okay, but enough about the tech finance bro stuff, right? Let's get into the fun part. So, okay. I hit 6 countries. Ooh, my bad. This is technical difficulties. All right, we're good. We are almost there. Okay, right there. The first one, but we're good. Anyway, I hit 6 countries in 7 weeks. I was kind of proud of that, but the problem is 2 of them were by accident. One night, I was supposed to be on an overnight train to Munich, and I woke up in Amsterdam. It was 4 a.m., I was sleep deprived, please don't blame me. Another time, I decided to stop in Paris for 1 day in an absolutely horrible hostel, just because a new friend I'd made was going there. I learned how to surf. I can now hold a very awkward but passable conversation in Portuguese. And somehow I even learned how to cook an authentic German strudel. Don't trust me on that one. I had impulsive adventures that I never would have had being here and in an environment I was comfortable in. I never would have planned this, but now, those are the stories that I'll tell as I am right now and remember forever. But here's the real takeaway. None of this, and I mean none of it, would have happened without the push GP gave me to take that leap. If I'd stuck to remote work, I wouldn't have had the professional growth, I wouldn't have made the personal transformation, or the experience standing in a boardroom, pitching to investors on a product that I worked on. And most importantly, I wouldn't have discovered just how much I'm capable of. This is what Morehead-Cain gives you. It's not just an internship. It's really not just a summer abroad like every other kid is doing. It's a chance to weave your passion into exploration, step into the unknown, and come out of the other side a completely new person. So when your time comes, and I know it will, you'll be apprehensive towards it, but take that leap. You never know where it might land you. Thank you. Sorry about the mic trouble, guys. That was on me. I'd now like to introduce Madeline Moraes from the class of 2025, originally from Huntersville, North Carolina, graduate from the William Amos Huff High School. She's here to speak about her professional experience summer.
Okay, way too tall for me. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. I'm super grateful to be here with you all, even at 9 or maybe now 10 on a Saturday morning. Last summer, I had the incredible opportunity to work with the Clinton Health Access Initiative, better known as CHI, in Panama City, Panama. Today, I'm excited to share a snapshot of my professional experience summer, one that was both transformative and inspiring. I'm currently a senior studying health policy and management in Spanish. When I entered UNC, I probably, like many of you, had plans for medical school. However, after one extremely humbling semester in Chem 101, I began rethinking my future. It was during my study abroad experience in Argentina, you can see on the right, that I was introduced to the idea of health at the population level, which led me to further explore careers in public health. I had several goals for my professional experience summer, but I had no idea how I was going to make them a reality. I was hoping for exposure to careers in public health, and I really was hoping to also improve my Spanish speaking skills. So I scoured the internet for opportunities that would allow me to continue to contribute to health meaningfully in Latin America, despite some limits in my Spanish speaking and writing abilities. Eventually, I found CHI, a global health organization operating health system strengthening programs in over 35 countries, one of which was Panama. Thanks to a connection with a Morehead-Cain alum, I was introduced with CHI's Panama office and eventually secured an internship on their malaria elimination team. Imagine my surprise after flying almost 2,000 miles from Chapel Hill to arrive and find 2 Duke graduates working in the office. Wasn't very happy about that. To support CHI's malaria elimination efforts, I analyzed data on the effectiveness, reach, and impact of community health workers in diagnosing and treating malaria. In Panama, nearly all malaria cases are concentrated in the semi-autonomous indigenous regions known as comarcas. These vast and remote areas have extremely limited access to health care, with poverty rates 4 times higher than the national average and a life expectancy 11 years lower. In the comarcas, community health workers are absolutely essential in preventing the transmission of malaria. However, a key regional grant funding the program was set to expire, putting their livelihoods and years of progress at work. My role was to draft a pitch to the Panamanian Minister of Health, advocating for the integration and expansion of these vital community health networks. One of the highlights of my summer, you can see on the right, was attending a regional conference in Antigua, Guatemala, where CHI convened country teams to discuss malaria and dengue control strategies. The conference was an amazing opportunity to see how countries collaborate to share best practices and adapt strategies to fight infectious disease together. For reasons I don't quite understand, one of my coworkers felt the need to bring a box of about 30 mosquitoes with us, for which he asked if I would help feed them. You don't want to know what that means. But here's what I quickly learned. Global health in practice looks absolutely nothing like global health in the classroom. For starters, the Minister of Health has far less power than I had initially assumed. The real decision-making authority lies with the Minister of Finance, who controls national spending and determines the healthcare spending. Sorry. I was incredibly surprised to learn about the decisions about these critical health programs that save so many lives don't rest in the hands of public health experts, but rather in those who hold the purse strings. Another realization was that career public health professionals are incredibly overworked and underpaid. The days were very long, and working in Spanish was pretty mentally exhausting. And another spoiler is that the 9 to 5 you all grew up hearing about is actually an 8 to 5, and anyone who says they don't work outside of those hours is lying to you. That one hurt to realize. Beyond the professional aspects of my internship, my summer in Panama was filled with incredible and unforgettable moments. I got to live in the vibrant center of Panama City with an incredible view of the skyline. I spent weekends exploring the country, camping on the remote indigenous islands of San Blas, spotting a family of humpback whales, and hiking through rainforests. One of my favorite moments was watching Colombia dominate Panama in the Copa America soccer tournament after work with my coworkers, half of whom were Panamanian, the other half Colombian. But the Panamanians had the last laugh the following week when Colombia lost to Argentina in the finals, so it all worked out for us. I told my supervisor the day I left that I had learned more in 8 short weeks at CHI than I had felt I had learned in 3 entire years at UNC. It's one thing to hear about these challenges in the classroom, like I said, but it's another to face them head on in real life. More than anything, Panama taught me that growth happens in the moments you least expect. When you're scrambling to find business casual clothes in a foreign city after your luggage failed to arrive, for my first day, it was horrible. When you're lost in translation, when you're thrown into work that pushes you beyond your comfort zone. It happens in some very awkward silences, small victories, and friendships forged over shared values. The most important thing I left Panama with was the certainty that I had found exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I was invigorated and inspired at work, and I felt as though I had found my true purpose. I can't wait to continue chasing this dream post-grad. And before I wrap up, I wanted to leave you with something similar to Ty that's at the core of my beliefs, and that is what is meant to be will be. I really hope you hear me when I say that each and every one of you is equally deserving of your place in this room, and wherever your future takes you, it will be exactly where you're meant to be. Thank you for your time. And I'm excited to introduce Emily Jenkins from the class of 2025, originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, my neighbor, and a graduate of Myers Park High School. Emily will now share her experiences with the Discovery Fund. Thank you.
right, thanks, Maddie. Hello, good morning. And first and foremost, welcome to Carolina. And congratulations to my new favorite future Tar Heels. I can already sense the energy and excitement in this room. 5 years ago, I sat right where you all are, literally this table right here, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, these are the most interesting people I have ever met. And I'm about to sweat through my pink blazer in front of the most interesting people I've ever met. And yes, I wore a pink blazer to my finalist interview. Also, to quickly get some logistics out of the way, the first decision that I made this morning was to spray hairspray directly into my eye. So if I start winking at you, then no, it's not planned. Okay, my goal today is to do for you what Andrew did for my class just 5 short years ago, to show you that there is no one single right way to make the most of this experience. There are thousands of ways. Mine is just one, and it is my hope that you will decide to carve your own. When I came into college, I had 2 great loves, food and sports. I spent the next 5 years, 4 Lovelace projects, and 3 summers realizing I love these things for the exact same reason. They are both forces that build community and transcend boundaries in non-traditional ways. Discovering this pattern came from a collection of experiences, both within the bounds of Chapel Hill and abroad, each uniquely enabled by Morehead-Cain, and each moment that changed my understanding of community. Community is the through line of the Morehead-Cain experience. It shows up in the foundation kitchen chats with friends, and the generosity and openness of the alumni network, in the dozens of advising meetings that help us understand the kind of students, professionals, and people we want to become. It is these conversations that pave the way for life-changing experiences. In the fall of my sophomore year, I was having coffee with a friend and scholar, Chris, and while we didn't know it at the time, this coffee would become a weekly ritual, out of which a friendship-testing, 5-country, 6-week exploration of the Paralympic movement would emerge. It would take us to wheelchair basketball practices in Japan, to the Olympic and Paralympic headquarters of Paris 2024, and to the Palace of Westminster for tea with the most accomplished British Paralympic swimmer in history. That summer was proof that unanswerable questions are the best kinds. It was also a very potent reminder that best friends do not always make the best travel companions, so consider that a pro tip. Chris and my friendship, right there, was single-handedly resurrected by Julie Weary after an SOS email requesting emergency friendship counseling, and we sent this before even getting on our first flight. So, unanswerable questions are not only welcomed here, but they are encouraged, which is a sentiment perfectly encapsulated by the Lovelace Fund for Discovery. This is a grant available to scholars throughout their time at Carolina that is not prescriptive, but instead an invitation to explore the most wide-reaching questions, having no idea if you'll ever come close to an answer. Now, if you're like me and you have literally every 30 minutes of your day blocked out in your Google Calendar, these kinds of questions can feel a bit nightmarish. But I've also come to realize that that lack of structure is incredibly empowering. I've used the Lovelace Fund to ask questions like, what role does pineapple trade play in Taiwan's and China's geopolitical relationship? And how do you scale sustainability measures in California's agriculture ecosystem? It was while exploring the second of these 2 questions that I would meet the 2 people whose words shifted my view of the world and myself. To start, I began to browse the Morehead-Cain alumni network for experts in the sustainability field, of which there are many, and met Lawrence, an alumnus who is particularly generous with his connections. He responded enthusiastically to my email, not with another email, but with a voice memo. A voice memo. And I don't know about you guys, but the only time I send voice memos are to my friends when I've gone down a Wikipedia rabbit hole so deep that I feel like everyone in my life needs to know about it. At the end of an insightful and encouraging 6 minutes, he signed off, "Be well." These simple 2 words sum up the care within this community, not only for your growth, but also for your being. A few weeks later, I was connected to his colleague and close friend, Mattis, a Swiss environmentalist who lived in Oakland. A month later, there I was, in Oakland, at his doorstep. I came fully dressed to interview him, and he greeted me at the door, barefoot, no less, reaching for a leash. "Would you like to walk my dog?" he asked. I looked down at my loafers and thought, well, no. But for the next 2.5 hours, we walked, talked, I blistered, and we swapped the leash back and forth. We got back to his house, and he handed me a copy of his book, drawing a doodle in the front cover. "Remember," he said, "we're the same as our kindergarten selves. The only difference is now we don't have to ask permission to go to the bathroom." It took me a while to realize, but Mattis had just issued me a challenge that he had spent his whole lifetime trying to solve. He was challenging me to embrace the wonder, to be in awe of the awesomeness of the world, and to protect it in the ways that only a child can. Fast forward 1.5 years later, I get another email from Lawrence. Let's be honest, it wasn't an email, it was a voice memo, which at this point had become a very personalized podcast series. And he said, "Guess what? Mattis just won a Nobel. Be well." This was the promise of the Morehead-Cain coming to life. A cold email and a warm Morehead connection placed me on the doorstep of a Nobel laureate and his dog. Mattis's point about childlike wonder embodies not only a more creative way of thinking, but a willingness to reimagine all that is in front of you. It was a stark reminder of the importance of just saying yes. While I could never have known it at the time, that finalist weekend breakfast table would become a portal to tables across the world. It would send me to quaint Taiwanese kitchens, learning about historical food traditions and trade policy. I would lean over crab leg, newspaper-lined tables in Maryland, discussing agriculture emissions with poultry farmers. I would share udon in Tokyo with Olympic and Paralympic committee members, reimagining megasport legacy for local disability communities. And in just a week, I am fortunately using the last drops of my Lovelace Fund to ignore the concept of jet lag and go to Kenya for a week to explore the smallholder farming economy. College has not been marked by years past or classes taken, but by the people I have the honor and privilege to know and learn from. In addition to the incredible alumni community, many of the most valuable lessons I have learned have been from within the scholar community. I could spend hours telling you about Justin, who pushed me with his intellectual curiosity, or Kate, who taught me the importance of thoughtfulness, or Lawazi, whose introspection led me by example. The essence of each of my experiences has been the generosity and openness of others. My scholar peers are the people who helped me make sense of who I was beyond my hometown and who I hoped to become. Because ultimately, that's what the Morehead-Cain is, a chance to be curious about yourself and the world around you in the company of people who meet your questions with more. Your Kates, Justins, Lawazis, and Chris's may very well be in this room. I know some of you came across oceans while others were a short 15-minute drive away, but all of you with this opportunity have a chance to go anywhere. I saw more of the world by staying in North Carolina than I ever could have otherwise. If it's the people that make the place, it's the Morehead-Cain that makes Carolina. You never know when it will be your turn to stand in front of the next class, in my case, again, sweating through a pink suit, telling them about all the ways this opportunity has changed you. Congratulations again to each of you, and in the spirit of the Morehead-Cain community and Lawrence, be well.